seriously.
On the base of it, nothing can be dismissed based on what a person does or does not do as a profession or as a former profession. One might argue the same with respect to politicians, but again, you still had to take those threats seriously. You have to look at them and do a threat assessment.
While concerned about the alleged threat on his life, Sailor White claims to be without fear, a character trait he believes would serve him well if sent to Ottawa. He is, however, surprised that since his recent foray into the political arena, he appears to have made enemies. John Tompkins, NTV News.
Says he's ready to get tough in politics, and workers at hotel.
The award-winning NTV Evening News Hour with Fred Hutton, Lynn Burry, and Tony Marie Wiseman.
Trinity North completed, political watchers are now fixing their gaze to the fight for the federal riding of St. John's West. Since the election was called, two so-called fringe parties have been trying to put forth candidates. However, NTV News has learned that elements of one fringe party are giving assistance to the competition. Now, in conventional politics, this would be scandalous. But as NTV's John Tompkins reports, for the fringe parties, it's all just part of political theater.
This is the headquarters of St. John's West candidate Sailor White, and the former professional wrestler, now a political hopeful, is in a heated policy discussion with campaign worker Jason Crummy. Some might remember Mr. Crummy's previous incarnation as a member of the Green Party who had himself intended to run in St. John's West. That was until he was told by party leaders based in British Columbia that his services weren't required, mostly, it appears, for his support of the seal hunt. Now Mr. Crummy and other Green Party members are throwing their support behind the Moondog. But that didn't happen overnight. Members of the Green Party have been working the fax machine and making phone calls as part of the Sailor White election machine from the start. Now, if this was the Tories and Grits, it would likely be a scandal. But for Jason Crummy, the cozy relationship between the Green Party and the Canadian Extreme Wrestling Party is just part of the nature of fringe politics. Besides, he says, the issues in St. John's West are still the same.
St. John's West is a glamour district. It's got tags, it's got industry, it's got the shrimp fishery, it's got the crab fishery, it's got forestry, it's got farming, it's got urban, it's got rural, it's got every important issue that's going on in Newfoundland and Labrador today. And there's a number of opinions in this district that must be expressed, and some of those people may well feel they are best expressing these by voting for the Moondog.
Sailor White says he's been keeping busy knocking on doors in St. John's West. He thinks if all the people who have promised to give him their vote do so, he can win the riding. But in order to get his voice into Parliament, those promises have to be realized at the ballot box.
But the people's got to get out and vote for me. If you sit in your house and you don't vote for me, that's no good to me. Say, yes, I'm behind Sailor, and you don't get out and vote. You got to get off your butt and get out and vote for the party that's going to do something for this country.
Mr. Crummy believes that the riding of St. John's West is going to be a close race. He says if Sailor White is going to win, he'll have to do what all politicians in the end must do to get elected. Identify your support and convince them to turn out and vote. John Tompkins, NTV News.
You egg-sucking dog, you.
As for Sailor White and the Extreme Wrestling Party, I'm personally disappointed at the showing. It was meager even by the standards of a good joke. If people really are fed up with politics, and it's safe to think that very many are, I would have expected a candidate who did body slams for a living to capture a larger harvest than Mr. White's vote. Maybe Greg Malone sapped up all the purely humorous franchise. Or maybe the voters didn't like the idea of a perfectly good wrestler turning into quite a commonplace politician. The by-election did nothing definitive. It was a warning for the Liberals, a gleam of respectable hope for the NDP, a dismissal of the alliance, and a tense reprieve for Mr. Clark and the Tories. For the magazine, I'm Rex Murphy.
C-E-W! What we're dealing with here is a total lack of respect for the law.